Right, let's get started. Hammer time. Couple of points that I need to before we go into the news items. The theme for this week will be contradictions, actual thinking, not just the headline, deep ponderings, thought processes of yourself and those around you. Are you a leader or are you a follower? Are you I or are you we? Are you helping or are you hindering? Are you empowering or disempowering? The ability to think on what you say or what you write has to be taken up a notch for greater understanding and clarity going forward. As the stench of desperation, oh boy, there's some stench, floats quickly through the air. One must be aware of adding to it at these times. The shit has already hit the fan and it's splattering everywhere. Now, most of the shit is coming out of the clown pants, I must add, but we must stay calm in the face of such whirling fans. Now, some people have complained recently that I've been a bit short with them or not contributing as much on the chat recently. But you have to understand the levels I and we are working at here. Some of the questions that have been asked have not been carefully thought out. I open up emails and there's questions, lifelong stories and personal issues, which is increasing more and more by the day. I go on the Facebook page and the questions start, and I go on the MeWe page in the chat and the questions start again. And, sometimes you just have to and would like to just wind down a bit. Most times I can deal with or address the volumes of requests, and there's sometimes that I can't. So if I go on the chat and 2 or 3 people are all asking the same question, one in particular on hybrids, which to me is not particularly relevant to fixing the now, then understand when my answers back will not always be what you want to hear. Sometimes I will pose questions back as the answer, which is asking the person to think more. And I'm asking you all to think a lot more. The clowns are trying to push us to a saturation point where we quit. We don't need the added work or demands increasing within our group also. I will not answer questions on plans, operational stuff or personal details that are frankly irrelevant at this point. Like Kim's divorce settlement documents that was sent to me recently. I mean, what relevance is that? And it shows a complete lack of thinking, real thinking or understanding of what is going on currently. Kim and I need your support in the best ways you can, not extra demands for our time. So you see, even Mr. Patience has his tolerance levels. Right, let's get into some of the news. And in the news this week is a plethora of things that I warned of, reported on, or revealed. It's staggering, it's all coming out now, not a surprise. But a reminder of the 2 words that were forecast for this year: consolidation and validation. Right, let's get into it. Arizona Senator Martha McSally, whose fundraising practices have drawn scrutiny in the past, is now in a bit of trouble again and appears to have accepted more than $270,000 in excessive campaign contributions during the recent midterm campaign, and this is all according to the Federal Election Commission. Now, federal candidates can collect $2,700 from a single donor during a primary election, followed by an additional $2,700 from the same person during the general election. But what the federal agency found and flagged dozens of contributions to McSally from more than 60 donors that appear to have exceeded those limits, including one who cut a $10,000 check during the general election alone. Now, this isn't the first time Max Elliott has drawn attention for their fundraising and record keeping. An audit by the FEC was released last year that found the former Congresswoman's 2014 campaign accepted $319,000 in excessive contributions. What a waste of money that is. Billions spent on largely, well, more times than not anyway, fake elections. The Roman Catholic Church. This could be a sign of something that we put out in November, early December, where the Pope was taken to task the cover-ups of the pedophiles. And this may tie in, as in Texas last Thursday, they released the names of almost 300 priests who it said had been credibly accused of child sexual abuse over nearly 8 decades. Now, the action was the latest in a wave of disclosures by the church as it faces a series of federal and state investigations into its handling, or lack of sexual misconduct. Now, the names were posted online by all 15 of the state's dioceses and followed the publication in August of a bombshell report on clerical sex abuse by the Pennsylvania Attorney General that has spurred investigations of the church in more than a dozen other states. There are an estimated 8.5 million Catholics in Texas alone, making it one of the most heavily Catholic states in the country, and the church has been in a state of crisis since dozens of local and federal agents raided the offices of the Archdiocese of Galveston, Houston, back in November as part of an investigation into sexual abuse cases. Now, since the release of the Pennsylvania report, which detailed 7 decades of alleged abuse there by over 300 priests, dozens of dioceses and religious provinces across the country have published the names of their alleged abusers also. And more than a dozen states have also now opened investigations into the church, although Texas, it seems, is not one of them. Customs officers this week, stationed at the commercial border crossing in Nogales, made the largest fentanyl seizure ever recorded at port of entry into the United States. And this was the day after President Donald Trump signed a bill putting an end to the longest government shutdown in history. And yet no one's noticed it's back. No one noticed it was gone, and no one knows it's back. Maybe there's something telling in that. Anyway, according to the US Customs and Border Protection, an officer alerted other officers to the presence of 254 pounds of fentanyl, which was hidden inside an 18-wheeler truck carrying cucumbers. Oh, cats love them, don't they? During a secondary inspection at the Mariposa port of entry just past noon on Saturday, and it has been sent for chemical analysis, and they won't know the purity of it until a much later date. Now, he noted just how deadly that amount can be in very small doses. This synthetic opioid is 80 to 100 times more potent than morphine. This is according to the DEA. And in addition to the fentanyl, officers seized 395 pounds of meth that was also hidden inside the compartment of the 18-wheel trailer. That's why we need walls. I had to laugh when I saw this story because people now have been banging on about it long enough, and people saying I don't understand it, which I don't. I have sanity. But a Canadian crypto exchange, Quadriga CX, and that moment of truth apparently arrived earlier this month when its CEO, Jerry Cotton, died suddenly from complications related, according to them anyway, of Crohn's disease. This is another smash and grab raid by the elites. Pure and simple. And according to a statement from the company, he died while travelling in India, where he was opening an orphanage to provide a home and safe refuge for children in need. Yeah, right. And since his death, 115,000 customers of the crypto exchange have been struggling with Mt. Gox-style liquidity issues, as those trying to withdraw their funds have suddenly found it extremely difficult, if not impossible, to do so successfully. Now, on Thursday, Quadriga's board released a statement announcing that it would be filing for bankruptcy protection now. In a statement, the company said the filing was prompted by an inability to locate and secure our very significant cryptocurrency reserves held in cold wallets. You're telling me that 115,000 customers held cryptos in these wallets online, Fresh Air tokens, and only one man had the codes, and if that one man goes, no one can access them? Oh my. So now they're filing for bankruptcy. Sound familiar? Should be. So the court is now being, it's going to go to the Nova Scotia Supreme Court to allow the opportunity to address the significant financial issues that have affected our ability to serve customers or give them the money back. And the court has been asked at a preliminary hearing on Tuesday, February the 5th, I haven't got an update on that, to appoint a monitor, Ernst and Young. Oh my, like the all above board Ernst and Young, as an independent third party to oversee the proceedings. And for the past weeks, they have worked extensively to address their so-called liquidity issues, which include attempting to locate and secure our very significant cryptocurrencies reserves, and that are required to satisfy customer cryptocurrency balances and deposits, as well as sourcing a financial institution to accept the bank drafts that are being transferred to us. And according to Quadriga, these efforts have not been successful. Go figure. Now, the implication of all this is a report by Tyler Durden of Zero Hedge. He writes a lot of good articles. The implication is that Cotton, who allegedly was sick with a chronic illness, was the only person who had the key to the Fresh Air tokens. Really. And he apparently now has taken this information to his grave. No chance whatsoever. It's another heist. Now, according to an article in Coindex, Quadriga CX owes its clients a total of $190 million. $190 million. And the exchange holds roughly 26,500 bitcoins, 11,000 bitcoin cash, 11 further Bitcoin Cash SV, 35,000 Bitcoin Gold, and nearly 200,000 Litecoins, and about 430,000 Ether coins. Yeah, Ether, Fresh Air. Dear me. It is unclear what percentage of these holdings was kept in hot wallets as compared to cold wallets, whatever that means. It just gets more lunacy by the day. But adding another layer of intrigue, Cotton's widow reportedly told a Canadian judge that her deceased husband held sole responsibility for handling the funds and the coins, and the remaining team members have had no luck accessing the exchange's coins. It boggles the mind, does it not? How long has this show been warning about this type of event, where you have no ability to control it? It's on a computer in the middle of nowhere that you can't access, and only one person has the codes, who then suddenly dies whilst they're in the midst of bankruptcy proceedings. Who's going to get your funds back? This is Orwell. This is why I keep telling people about cryptocurrencies, bitcoins, blockchain, and all the other stuff. It's the Orwell world, where all your wealth is stored on a computer, and if they decide they don't like you, they press delete. Or if they decide that they need funds to keep their failing system going, they just press delete on the owner and collect the whole lot. It's beyond stupid. Another thing we warned about: the decision by a prominent consumer DNA testing company to share data with federal law enforcement means investigators now have access to genetic information linked to hundreds of millions of people. Family Tree DNA, an early pioneer of the rapidly growing market for consumer genetic testing, confirmed late on Thursday that it has granted the Federal Bureau of Investigation access to its vast trove of nearly 2 million genetic profiles. Now, concerns about unfettered access to genetic information gathered by the testing companies have now swelled since last April, when police used a genealogy website to ensnare a suspect in a decades-old case of the Golden State Killer. That's how they justify doing it. I can almost guarantee it had nothing to do, solving that case had nothing to do with pulling out DNA from these websites, and it's everything to do with controlling everything. With a load of genetic material, they can create an awful lot. But that site, GED Match, was open source, meaning police were able to upload crime scene DNA data to the site without permission. Do you think that was a coincidence? No, neither do I. And the latest arrangement marks the first time a commercial testing company has voluntarily given law enforcement access to its user data. Now it's just the first time that other people found out. We've been doing it right from the off, as I warned many years ago. And where all the DNA testing's going: Utah, Salt Lake, Dugway, Area 52. I wonder why. Further job losses in the media industry. Keep it going. We'll close them down eventually. And it's facing more hard news, with Vice Media now cutting 250 jobs, and McClatchy reportedly offering buyouts to 10% of workers at its 29 newspapers. And this is the latest round of layoffs in the media industry contracts, and the cuts affect about 10% of Vice's 2,500 staff, according to its spokeswoman Danielle Carrick. Follow on from last week and the intel: US oil refiners won't be allowed to complete shipments of Venezuelan crude they booked before the Trump administration slapped new sanctions on the Latin American nation. The US Treasury Department officials have informed some companies that previously contracted cargoes won't be exempt from a new rule blocking payments to Venezuela's PDVSA. And according to two people familiar with the matter, the requirement forces purchasers of Venezuelan crude to deposit payment into an account state-owned Petroles de Venezuela SA, and they can't touch it. Another heist. And the clarification puts refiners in a difficult position, as PDVSA is now demanding upfront payments before releasing any tankers that are bound for the US. It's all there. But under the Trump administration's January 28th sanctions, which bizarrely someone messing with my phone sent it back to that date today and time. They love messing with time loops. If it's not 4 years, it's a week or 2 weeks. Yes, get ready, Dave. And US companies are barred from doing business now with PDVSA. 2 vessels contracted for Valero Energy Corp and one belonging to Chevron are now anchored in Venezuela awaiting payment. A 4th tanker booked by Chevron may be rerouted without getting the oil it came for, according to tanker tracking data. Disturbing report out of the UK. And this plays into some of the feminism issues and some of the comparative nature that we have riddled throughout society that forces these kids to take drastic measures. But the UK teenage suicide rate has now almost doubled in the past 8 years, as ministers have vowed to crack down on the internet giants accused of fueling youngsters' distress. That's one reason they cite. And new figures show the rate among children between 15 and 19 has risen, despite falling for most other age groups. And the Provisional Office for National Statistics data for last year revealed that suicides are running at more than 5 per 100,000 amongst teenagers in England. Now this same figure in 2010 was 3 in 100,000, so it's near doubled. And it comes after the grieving father of 14-year-old Molly Russell accused Instagram of helping to kill her after the schoolgirl took her own life. Mr. Russell of Harrow, West London, said Molly had gone to bed in a good mood, but decided to kill herself after looking at troubled images that night on Instagram. Also, online, in a tactical bid to get even more info on people's online habits, Facebook has been quietly paying teens and young adults to install a program that allows the company to track all of their phone and web activity, according to a TechCrunch investigation earlier this week. And the report details how the tech giant recruited users ages 13 to 35 to install and run its Facebook Research app, a VPN designed to monitor all data passing through the user's phone, including private messages, text and images, internet searches and browsing, and in some cases continuously updated location information, according to a security expert this week. In exchange, the company, working through third-party administrators, they always do that, to block litigation, offered participants e-gift cards on the order of $20 a month, plus extra for referring other people. Notably, the research app seemed to be a repackaging of the Onavo Protect app, a different Facebook program that Apple actually banned last year for violating its rules on data collection by developers. They're spying on us. People who spy are in fear, pure and simple. Pelosi and her mouth-chewing ways This is the kind of skullduggery that's going on. Right before the State of the Union, Pelosi did an email solicitation a few hours before the scheduled to welcome Trump to the House chamber this week, and she said she was seeking to raise $200,000 to make his second State of the Union completely backfire. How would $200,000 make Trump completely backfire and the State of the Union? What are you going to do? Hire an assassin? Well, she tried it not so long back, did she not? Several times. And the email sought donations for the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee, better known as the KKK, which aims to elect Democrats to the House. In the years since Trump last delivered a State of the Union address, we've seen his vision for the country firsthand. And he's threatened the integrity of the Russian investigation, separated families at our border, doubled down on his ineffective and expensive border wall, and attacked everyone who dares to disagree with him. And I'll be honest, that's just the tip of the iceberg, according to the old bag Pelosi. Which is why I have an ambitious plan, she said, of $200,000 in the door before his big speech to make his second State of the Union address completely backfire. Perhaps Secret Service should contact Pelosi and ask what she was going to do with the $200,000 that would make the State of the Union address backfire, instead of fake Russian collusion. I was waiting for this result because we reported last year about the Grammy Awards and the Emmy Awards and how viewing figures were drastically down. And also, of course, the Clinton News Network and MSNBC are also collapsing in on themselves because people are finally realising they talk bollocks, frankly. And so I waited for the figure of the 2019 Superb Owl. Not Super Bowl, Superb Owl. Let's all hail Moloch, which is the giant effigy in the Bohemian Grove, that they all stand there naked and prance around, playing with each other's bottoms and chasing each other around the woods. That's what goes on. Ask Alex Jones. He was there. But the Superb Owl was watched by the fewest people in 11 years. And the CBS broadcast of Sunday's game between the Los Angeles Rams and the New England Patriots was watched by 98.2 million, which is a considerable drop down, and the lowest since 2008, when 97.5 million tuned in. Now, the ratings for the Superb Owl have now fallen for the fourth year running. There was 103.5 million last year, so it's dropped 4.3 million, down from 111.3 million in 17 and 111.9 million in 16, and 114.4 in 2015. So you're talking ballpark 16 million drop. 4 years, 4 million per year. Are now deciding we're not watching that rigged game, and good. You know, the biggest issue is not so much the game, it's what takes place at half time when they take the piss out of the people with their rituals and symbolism and all the other clowning around that goes on. But the cost of a 30 seconds advert during the big game broadcast actually went up this year. Why? Because they're losing revenue badly, that's why. And the superb owl ad spots are the most expensive on commercial TV by far. A 30-second slot on CBS costs $5.25 million. Imagine what you could do with $5.25 million instead of wasting it on drivel. So I'm glad to see their events of let's take the piss out of the public because they think we're all naive. Not no more, we're not. Hawaii went all Nazi this week, and they're saying they could raise the legal smoking age to 100, effectively banning cigarettes for the vast majority of people in the state. In a new bill proposed by the Democrat Richard Cragen, the smoking age would increase rapidly between 2020 and 2024. Now, it still has to pass through state legislature, and whether there'll be a potentially strong backlash from tobacco companies, there should be a backlash from people. You know, just because you don't like smoking or smokers doesn't mean to say they're not going to ban something that you like one day. This is what they do. You have to be very careful once you go down that path of controlling what others can do. It's not sovereign. And, you know, people want to drink and people want to do drugs, fine by me. Just don't bring it near me. You know? What people do in their private lives is nobody else's business. Now, e-cigarettes, which killed a Texas man this week, blew up. Chewing tobacco and cigars are not included in the bill. And Mr. Cragen, who was an emergency room physician before he was elected as state representative, called the cigarette the deadliest artifact in human history. Well, the stupidest artifact in human history is a politician. What would he know? And anyway, in January 2017, Hawaii became the first US state to raise its smoking age to 21, which is a good move, I think. And in other US states, the legal age is usually 18 or 19, and a new bill, HB 1509, suggests that the smoking age should go up to 30 in 2020, 40 in 2021, 50 in 2022, and 60 in 2023, until finally in 2024 you would need to be 100 years of age to buy cigarettes. I think Hawaii's got far more important things than be focusing on than what people are smoking, to be quite honest. How about challenging the tobacco companies to reduce all the additives they put in cigarettes? You want to make it safe. Why don't they all just have natural tobacco? There I go again, talking common sense. I have to stop there. A wave of bankruptcies is sweeping the US Farm Belt as trade disputes add pain to the low commodity prices that have been grinding down American farmers for years, which is why they need to release the NESARA program, which is not for everyone on the internet, it's for farmers only, for those who are new. And throughout much of the Midwest, US farmers are filing for Chapter 12 bankruptcy protection at levels not seen for over a decade. And bankruptcies in 3 regions covering major farm states last year rose to the highest level in at least 10 years. Now, the 7th Circuit Court of Appeals, which includes Illinois, Indiana and Wisconsin, the land of the ice fishermen, has doubled the bankruptcies in 2018 compared to 2008. And in the 8th Court, which includes states from North Dakota to Arkansas, bankruptcies have swelled 96%. The 10th Circuit, which covers Kansas and other states, last year had a 59% more bankruptcies than a decade earlier. Nearly that. Russia says it's planning to develop new missile systems after both Russia and America suspended their involvement in an arms control pact. The Intermediate Range Nuclear Forces (INF) treaty banned both countries from using short and medium range missiles. But last week, Donald Trump announced the US would leave the pact, which has long accused the Russians of violating. Russia then did the same, and the moves has now raised concerns about a new arms race. Yeah, it'd have to be an arms race because nobody's got a leg to stand on. The INF was signed in 1987 during the fake Cold War to ease a crisis in which the US and Soviet missiles were placed within range of European capitals. This is more NATO fun and games, and Mr. Trump has been badly advised. You know, America and Russia did reduce the weapons, but NATO are increasing them. They're the problem. Putting missiles in Poland and Georgia and all those border former part of the Rus Empire, Russian states that have now been taken over by Nazis and all kinds of other clowns. They're posting missiles there pointing at Russia. So why shouldn't Russia defend itself? This is what's going on. NATO is the problem, a big problem. The Department of Justice has now said it's opening an investigation into its attorney's handling of a plea deal with Jeffrey Epstein. Yes, he of the island, who was accused of molesting more than 100 girls in Florida. And Senator Ben Sasse, a member of the Senate Judiciary Committee, said on Wednesday that the Office of Professional Responsibility has now launched a probe, and according to a letter he received from the Department of Justice, OPR has now opened an investigation into allegations that the department's attorneys may have committed professional misconduct in the manner in which the Epstein matter was resolved. Remember the piece last week about where's the arrests? Here's another example of what you're dealing with. You arrest people and they have people in the Departments of Justice, the FBI, CIA, NSA, who just pervert the course of justice. They have to be cleared out. Mr. Sasse pressed the DOJ following a bombshell Miami Herald report in November that said Epstein, who is a Palm Beach millionaire, was offered a plea deal which just sentenced him to 13 months in jail, even after he was accused of running a sex ring that trafficked teenage girls. 100 girls or more molested, and he gets 13 months. Oh, in the deal, Epstein, who was being linked to Mr. Trump and former President Clinton, the news media had to drop Trump in. There's very tenuous links to Trump, but very detailed links to the Clintons, I might add. With the plea deal, he only pled guilty to 2 prostitution charges, not molesting over 100 girls or running a sex trafficking teenage girls racket. And in response, he and any potential co-conspirators, aka the Clintons, were given immunity from further prosecution. Still want the 60,000 arrests to go ahead? Don't you think those 60,000 indictments will all walk free when that's how they operate? Beyond a joke.